Tim here, Gamiviti, back in the garage. My request, install tips, tricks on the snap-on grid panels. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Kind of tough to find an angle up here on the roof, but I think we can work with this, so let's jump into it. So your first move, as you likely can imagine, is just figuring out where on your rack you're going to put your panels. Your only real requirement there is that they don't hang off the side so that they interfere with, say, your rear hatch, and that each one of them has at least 2 of these crossbars, because we're going to use our plastic clips to grip these crossbars to hold them down. Now, what we're doing today is our 200 series. It's got the Essential Expo rack on it, so I've decided to run 3 of them all the way to the back. You can't see that, but you will in future shots, which extends this one into the sunroof, probably about 8 inches or so. So that'll look pretty cool when it's done. Let's see what happens. So when you go bolt most of these up, they're going to interlock together. So you're going to want to start at one edge and then work your way across all of the panels. So in this case, we're going to start at the very, very back. See, this is the back of our rack here. And we're just going to decide which 2 bars we're going to use for this first one. And I've decided I'm going to run these clips like this, kind of opposing. So one's going to engage like this guy, and one's going to engage here. And that's what's going to hold that first panel on. So my first move then is to install both of the clips on this very, very back edge. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I've got my 2 first clips on. You watched me count the squares. I like to be consistent, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, just so it looks symmetrical. And all that you really care about here is that they're the same, so that when we put this back against the bar, that this is running true. As you see, that bar sticks out a lot further over there than it does over here. So I'm gonna fix that up. I know I want this to extend a little bit more, maybe another 1/2 inch or so, and that's just so that way out in the front it engages better. So I'm going to clean that up, and then I'm going to tighten these clips down. So when I set up the first 2 clips, I really like to be consistent on where the screws are relative to the panel, and then where the clips are relative to their travel. They've got a little slot in them, as you know. And where I found is I've kind of got the bolts. I actually moved the bolts to the second slot back, the second row back, if you can see that. And but I've got them right up against this rib here with the plastic clip sort of pushed back. So the reality is it just gave me this consistency that I wanted. I was sure I could get both the same on either way because I'm able to use the actual grid panel as sort of a baseline. And then when I laid them out, it got me that front piece where I wanted it. So now that I got my 2 back ones secure, I've sort of set my line, and now I can go ahead and start working forward on the next set of clips. So when we get to the next row here, of course, it's all about engaging. So my clip underneath this right here is going in this direction, right? You guys saw that. So then I'm going to engage now, let's move this. I'm going to engage this bar with a clip in this orientation. So the 2 are going to be pressing out kind of at opposing directions there. So I put that on there, and then I can count in. Basically looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 5th hole is from the front edge. Now this don't worry about the number, just know that you want to be consistent side to side as you bolt yours up. So in my case, I'm going to shoot for number 5, and I'm going to go in on number 5 and 6 from the outside. So I'm going to do that on both sides and just loose for now. Okay, so I've got both sides installed, and this is really loose right now, but now I can get this dialed in. So the method to do that is I'm going to push the grid panel back towards this one that I've already got bolted up rigidly. And I'm going to do that with my hand here. And at the same time, I'm going to pull this plastic clip that way, which forces it to engage with that next bar down. And in so doing, it's going to pop up a little bit. Just kind of even these things out to make sure it's kind of perpendicular, just because it looks better. And then I'm going to tighten down those 2 screws. And if I do this right, when these are tight, I should have no movement. I'm trying to move this side to side. It doesn't move, okay? So that's how you know it's nice and locked in. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. So same method here. I'm pushing this way on the panel, pushing back towards my first rigid clip. I'm reaching under here with my fingers and pulling that black plastic clip back towards me so that it locks into that bar going across. And while I hold that there, I take my wrench and I tighten those 2 screws. And if I do this right, I can't move this side to side. And that panel's locked in. So, 1 down. Okay, so panel 1 is locked in. Feeling good. Next move then is to engage this interlock with the second panel. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but enough to get my good count here. And now I just need to count in where this plastic clip can go so that it engages with that first crossbar. So on the back ones, I was kind of doing this thing. I think on these, I'm going to do kind of this thing where I flip them the other way. That way, this whole thing just starts working together. It just can't shift either way. So you can experiment with that, but for me, that's what's worked out well. So if I count in, it looks like my 4th set of holes in is going to be where I want to be. Again, I'll just go for 5 and 6 because that's consistent. So I don't even have to have this on the rack necessarily to do that. I can do it right out here in front of me because I know exactly where I'm going. So put these first 2 clips on. I'll be right back. Got the first 2 clips on here. It's still loose. My next move then is to engage this whole long side with this first panel. So the easiest way to do that is just pop it up. It's on there. You can kind of line it up a little easier with a second person, but you'll get it. Squeeze those together. And then run the other side and squeeze that side. So now these are together. I can go ahead and pop this panel back down and then pop this panel down into it. Do that for both sides. Okay, now the fun part. This gap is nice and tight here. This is snapped down nice and tight. So now, since my clip is kind of aiming forward right as the truck goes, I'm gonna reach in and pull that plastic clip so that it pushes forward and engages with that bar as much as I can. All right, and while I do that, then I'll tighten these up, and that'll make sure that this is locked in and it can't move relative to the other one. So a little bit tricky to get in there, but if you push them to one side, usually you can sneak your arm in there and push it up like that, and then okay, that one's locked in. I'm gonna slide it this way, and I can go do the other side. Okay, great. So I've got 3 rows of clips finished. Everything's tight with itself, tight to the rack. My next move then is figure out where this is gonna go on this bar right here. So I have on this bar, these guys are going this way. Hold that where you can see it. There you go. On this front bar, they're gonna go the other way. So again, they're grabbing. We're grabbing like this. So it's looking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kind of the 8th hole down. And again, 5 and 6 usually are the ticket. So those are my coordinates. I'm just going to bolt up both of those loose for now, and then I'll go ahead and snug them up. Okay, so now you're getting it. We're engaged. We're in the forward side of the bar here. So now on this one, again, we're going to push it towards the back of the rack, the plastic clip that is, while making sure that the other guy doesn't move at all. So it's going to move forward. Now here's a really neat trick. Once you get close, sometimes you can use your Allen wrench as a little pry bar, and it'll really put some nice pressure on there. See if I can get that in there. Well, maybe not. Okay, 2 panels totally done. I think you get the idea now. It starts to get a little repetitive, and it is. Starting at the very back or the very front, and you just kind of keep working your way, keeping everything nice and tight, one row at a time, making sure you got that nice engagement with those adjacent panels as well as the clips on the bars. I'll give you a couple pro tips here, because I think it's a little bit easier just sitting here than to tell you about it. One is, say this is your tubing and here's your clip. Note that it wants to sit flat like this. Let me see if I can get the angle right. But the right angle, the right spot is actually up a little bit. So it goes up like 1/8 of an inch to where you get that engagement. So peek under there and make sure you don't see a gap like that. You want that to be nice and tight. Second thing, you may have noticed me holding these where I would hold the nut like that as if it's ready to go, as if the bolt's ready to go in, and that's intentional. I can put that in as one unit, and then when I feed that bolt down, I can get it to start. And so learn that one over, just some experience. Second tip I'll give you there is sometimes they just don't want to start. You think you're lined up, and this is on the rack too, and you just turn and turn and nothing's happening. Try turning it backwards, and sometimes that'll realign it a little bit, and then go right back into the forward way. And sometimes that's all it takes to get that guy to line up and start threading in there. So give those 2 tips a shot and see how that goes for you. Oh yeah, and the last thing I wanted to show you, that pry trick. So got a little scrap here, but what I was talking about was I can put my wrench in this way, and it's actually going through the whole thing, and I'm able to just get the leverage to pry that and push that plastic clip. And that's a really nice trick if you have the space in those squares to give yourself some forced engagement and push that thing nice and tight up in there. So, and finally, I get these at Home Depot. These are these nice little Velcro straps. They're for cable management and that sort of thing, but they work really well. Put one in the middle, kind of on your frontmost panel, maybe one in the back. If you notice a rattle sometime, you can add one, but boy, just one of these has been all I've needed, and honestly, none of these I've gotten away with so far. Nothing's fallen off. In general, I'm using these because I'm putting gear bags on top of them, so the gear's holding them on. But certainly these things run down the road with nothing on them, working just fine. But this does give you a little bit of peace of mind, so I would definitely recommend it. Quick rundown of what this looks like installed, all 3 panels. Here we are looking out the sunroof, and that's how much protrudes out. You can't even see it from inside. I did put one of those strips there, and then here's all 3 going all the way back. So these guys are on there, and more videos to come on these guys. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Thanks. And I think with that, we can go ahead and wrap it up. So grid panel with the snaps install. Showed you a few pro tricks. Showed you how I like to set them up. Hopefully that was useful to you. If not, you know, please let me know. Let me know what you're struggling with if you're having a hard time with these things. Of course, love to hear your comments, and I love the tips. I appreciate the feedback on getting this video done. So hopefully that was useful to the person who asked for that. Let me know what else you want to see on these videos. And again, I will see you on the next one.